Sorry.
No fear. No political correctness. No wokeism. You're listening to Underground USA.
Thanks for downloading, listening, and sharing. My name is Frank Salvato. Before we get into this segment of America's Third Watch, I wanted to comment on the disturbing rhetoric that is resurfacing among some of the more radical members of the Democrat Party. Specifically, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Maxine Waters, and Jamal Bowman. At a recent rally in the South Bronx, AOC and Bowman, you remember Bowman as the scofflaw who put everyone's life in danger by pulling the fire alarm in the U.S. Capitol building to prevent a vote from taking place on the House floor. They recently headlined a rally in which their rhetoric was unacceptable in the least and actionable at best. And Maxine Waters, a race-baiting fraud from California, has made several inflammatory statements about Donald Trump and his supporters. In May, Waters fear-mongered that right-wing organizations connected to Trump were training up in the hills somewhere to attack if Biden won the election. Some analysts have interpreted this as the groundwork for a false flag operation planned by Democrats in case Trump wins in November. She has pathetically fear-mongered about potential killings and fears for the safety of black people if Trump were to win, calling Trump supporters domestic terrorists. Give this a listen.
I'm very concerned not only about my safety and not only about the safety of members of Congress. I'm concerned about the safety of so many people in this country, particularly people of color. Trump has said that if he does not win, it's going to be fraud. And because it's going to be fraud, there's going to be blood in the streets. He threatens about a civil war, and he threatens there's going to be violence. So I say all of this talk is motivational with many of those who are racist, who are sitting at home listening to him, and they're taking him up on his threats even before the elections take place. And so it's about thousands, maybe millions of people, being threatened and being at risk because of Donald Trump and his desire to wreak revenge on anything and everybody. I'm going to ask the Justice Department to tell us what they're going to do to protect this country against violence if he loses. I want to know about all of those right-wing organizations that he's connected with, who are training up in the hills somewhere and targeting, what communities they're going to attack.
Let's stay the course. Let's make sure we show up wherever we have to show up. And if you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd. And you push back on them. And you tell them they're not welcome anymore, anywhere.
I am the hip-hop congressman. People ask me why I got a foul mouth. What am I supposed to do? You coming after me. You coming after my family. You coming after my children. I'm not supposed to fight back. I'm not supposed to fight back. We're gonna show them who the fuck we are. We're gonna show them who the fuck we are. Let me get the guns out again one more time.
This type of irresponsible and incendiary rhetoric led to the deadly riots throughout the summer of 2020, resulting in tens of billions of dollars in damage to property by far-left activists associated with Black Lives Matter and Antifa. City governments in these blue meccas handcuffed law enforcement and let those neo-Bolshevik terrorists burn down buildings, co-opt city blocks through insurrection, and in some cases commit assault and even murder. That never happened when Donald Trump lost his election. This is a result of the unchecked rhetoric coming out of the far left of the Democrat Party, the progressives, the neo-fascists, the neo-Bolsheviks, who are executing a Marxist-based agenda in real time and who have been doing it for the past 16 years. They're hiding behind the First Amendment to justify incendiary rhetoric as political speech. While the First Amendment may protect their right to espouse violent rhetoric, words that incite violence and mayhem, with that right comes consequences when laws are transgressed by those who are doing the inciting. The U.S. Supreme Court holds that citizens have a right to free speech under the First Amendment, but not if that speech is used or meant to produce imminent violent conduct or is likely to do so. Under 18 U.S. Code 2101, incitement to riots and violence includes the acts of organizing, promoting, encouraging, participating in a riot, or urging others to riot, a federal crime punishable by up to 5 years in prison. In California, Penal Code 404.6 makes it a crime to incite a riot, even without direct participation in violent acts. In New York State, Penal Law Section 240.08 addresses inciting to riot. According to this law, a person is guilty of inciting a riot when they urge 10 or more individuals to engage in tumultuous and violent conduct likely to create public alarm. This conviction is punishable by up to 364 days in jail and a fine in the amount of $1,000 or double what the defendant gained from the crime. I'd ask why AOC, Waters, and Bowman haven't been charged with inciting violence and encouraging rioting, but I believe we all know the answer to that question. Blue urban areas and blue states have politically weaponized the judicial system, and the established prosecutorial double standard benefits the Marxist revolutionaries masquerading as Democrats. Ultimately, these reprobates are enabled by those who elect them. And until that electorate is literally harmed by the violence AOC, Waters, and Bowman, and people like them promote, it is unlikely they'll be held accountable at the ballot box for their crimes. But one thing is guaranteed. If conservatives, Republicans, libertarians, constitutionalists, and even real Democrats don't start interceding between the fearmongers of violence and the electorate, and do it potently and successfully, the puppet-stringed neo-Bolsheviks of the far left will riot, damage, burn, and murder if Donald Trump wins in November. That's what neo-Bolsheviks and anarchists do. They destroy. We need to nip these crimes, almost as assured as they are, in the bud. Head them off at the pass. Otherwise, our cities will burn. When we come back, our segment on America's Third Watch, broadcast nationally from our flagship station, WGUL, AM 860 and FM 93.7 in Tampa, Florida.
You're listening to Underground USA.
Listen to the podcast in its entirety at undergroundusa.com.